Morning. Morning.
Morning, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, CEO, Directors. Welcome. The traditional custodians of this wonderful place we call home represent a human occupation dating back almost 60,000 years, and in our valley that's the Iwi people. And whenever we come together as a community, as a council, we pay our respects to the elders past, present and those emerging. This council meeting is being streamed live and published in accordance with our council standing orders. And so welcome to our online audience. And for the members of the public gallery attending today, by attending the meeting, you're of course consenting to your image and your voice being recorded and published. So thanks very much, councillors. I declare the meeting open. We don't have a member of the Makai churches combined today because apparently they're under lockdown because of COVID. So let's together open our meeting today by seeking a blessing. So let us pray. Lord, help us to be strong, for our community depends on us. Help us to conduct ourselves in the spirit of truth and compassion. Guide our actions to deliver fair and reasonable outcomes. Bless our officers and staff and watch over the people of our region. Amen. Nobody absent on council business, no apologies, condolences. Council, with your indulgence, I'd like to send a letter of condolence to the Etwell family. Margaret Etwell, wife of a very long-serving councillor on the Pioneer Shire and Mackay City, passed away on the weekend. Margaret herself was involved in numerous community organisations. And so I think we as a council send our condolences to the Etwell family. She was a stalwart of this region and spent quite some time just recently over at Cascade Gardens, affectionately known as the Mayor of Cascade Gardens for quite some time. All right, any further condolences? No further condolences? Any conflicts of interest to declare today? Let's move on then. The confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the meeting of the 9th of February have been circulated. We've got nothing back from any council. Would somebody like to move that the minutes be adopted? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Englert. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried. Thank you. The business arising out of the minutes are included in the agenda on page 7. There's no mayoral minutes today. Let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. The first is the Office of the Mayor and CEO for the month of January. CEO.
Thank you. I think I'll be fairly brief today. I'll probably only point out two things. One is that there's some commentary in there about consolidation of some properties and rates, which is impacting revenues. So more a timing issue. So there's so we're about 92,000 down on the back of refund to state government for that, but we catch up next month. So we're up about 40,000 next month by the time those amalgamations are completed. And the other thing, just on the Kpis program, while we're tracking year to date pretty close, we're still forecasting that sort of 88 to 90% of the Kpis program at the end of the financial year.
Thanks, CEO. That, of course, is the strategic financial report as part of the Office of the Mayor and CEO report. Questions? Councillor Bonaventura has a question.
Just in relation to, on page 9, Your Worship, just in relation to that, while I don't expect the specifics of the CEO, he did explain that a little bit, but can you tell me what that large refund to the Department of Resources from amalgamation of parcels of land relates to? I think he did give me the approximate value, but what does it relate to? What land are we talking about?
I don't know if the director know. We'd have to take that on notice, which land.
Righto, thank you.
That's in the table there, the statement of financial position. That's where you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, right.
And if I could, one other question.
Certainly.
On page 20, I note the 3.4 million in current rate arrears. Just can you tell me the percentage of this that is currently under a payment plan and coming in on a week-by-week basis, or maybe it's simpler just the percentage of the 3.4 million that maybe have not made contact. So they're the ones that we're sort of worried about, the ones that haven't made contact to discuss their position.
CEO or Director? Director? Certainly.
So of the 3.4 million of current arrears, 13% of the assessments have an arrangement in place. As per the debt recovery policy, payment may be either weekly, fortnightly, monthly, or depending on the arrangement. The payment schedule to be approved, it must allow for the full balance overdue to be paid by 30th of June or 31st of December in the relevant rating period. Therefore, at the end of January, most arrangements would have expired, except for some pensioner arrangements. And then billing services are now accepting new arrangements for the current rating period. And of the 3.4 million of current arrears, 54 of the assessments are with Council's Collection Agency, CHL, and of the remaining assessments, those that have not been arrangements or with CHL, 37% of the assessments have a balance more than $600, which may include metered water.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Any further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just to highlight a couple of things from the report. The forecasting operating surplus is 100,000 for the financial year, but unfortunately for the January to date, it's a $300,000 unfavourable balance there. And then, of course, with our operating, the capital expended is approximately 57 million, of which 56 million is capital projects and 1 million of that is operational expenditure. And that really represents about 45% of the capital being delivered. So as the CEO highlighted, at the end of this financial year, we should be reaching around that 90% mark for our capital delivery. I did want to just highlight again for the areas of concern, and of course COVID is constantly playing a part in our lives, and as a big organisation like this council, managing that on a day-to-day basis is extremely important, and our team are doing a great job at that. The asset data cleansing process that's been undertaken is very, very comprehensive, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. And the discovery of new assets, increasing depreciations, all of those sorts of things are things that really need to be factored into our finances going forward. And then, of course, the ever-going problem of material supplies and human resources is impacting on our capital projects delivery as well. Apart from that, the water business is tracking reasonably well. The waste business is tracking well as also. And I think overall, the financial position of the council is very, very strong with our cash flows as well as our balance sheet.
Yeah. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on. 11.2, Development Services Report. 11.2.1 is the monthly review for January. So the Acting Director, Kylie Rogers, is here today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for considering the Development Services Monthly Review Report. Just a couple of overview points I'd like to talk about and highlight. Firstly, I guess we've achieved another significant milestone for the Makai waterfront with the appointment of local contractor Willem Constructions, and so that $5.5 million value of work is due to commence on site in the next couple of weeks, so you'll start to see some activity down there. There continues to be steady development activity in the region, and due to a high number of vacancies within the team, though, there is still some challenges, I guess, with meeting our KPIs, but the good news is there too that we are starting to fill some of those key roles, and that's starting to change now, so that's also some good news. There has been a significant and notable increase in our mowing activity over the month of January too, which is great for the peak growing season, with almost double the quantity of mowing activity from previous months. The other good news there too is that the parks restructure is now essentially finalised and in place, and our service levels and resources are constantly being reviewed in line with this to ensure we're achieving our objectives. The Makai Natural Environment Centre nursery team has been busy with the free plant giveaway that has commenced again for 2022. Click and Collect is continuing to prove popular, and a new covered trailer is making it much easier for the program to be delivered out to the smaller communities as well. A number of key events were held in January with thanks to the support of our Invest Makai Events and Attraction conference program, including the Australia Day Basketball Carnival, the regional Queensland Gridiron Reef Bowl, and the round one of the AFLW with the Gold Coast Suns and also the GWS Giants. This was complemented by the tour of the Gold Coast Suns representatives to showcase some of the assets in our region. And the other good thing there was that basically a tourism marketing video was prepared at the same time and has been shared on the Gold Coast Suns platform, which is great for the region. And in continued support of our recreational fishing, approach to the region as well, the Council and Mackay Isaac Tourism have partnered to produce a land-based fishing brochure, which was launched in January. Further 2 fishing competitions were launched to promote the opening of the Barra season, and they've seen some great success there so far. So with that, I'd like to present this report to Council for consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Acting Director. Questions? Oh, you're getting off lightly today, yeah. Kylie, thank you very much. Well done. No questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves the report. I'll get it out. The report's adoption. Councillor Green seconds. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. It's pleasing to see an application has been lodged in Finchatten for a material change of use for a nature-based tourism activity, which I think demonstrates that that people believe that council's serious about what we're going to be doing in the Finchatten area economically. As the Acting Director said, $5.5 million project to start in March to revitalise the public realm between Paxton's and the fish market. So large pavilion, activity shelter, amenities block, picnic areas, shared path and seating for taking the views, as well as some funding from the federal government, another $4.2 million that will assist us in getting a pontoon in the river and upgrading some of the buildings that reach out over the water in that area. Safe Night Precinct grants are now up and ready for commercial businesses to improve late night economy trading through safety, and this is generally through providing some funding if they wish to apply for some additional CCTV or lighting. As also stated, the partnership between Council and MITL for the land-based fishing brochure, even though we have one of the largest registrations of boat trailers in Queensland per capita, there's still plenty of people who don't have a boat, so this is a really good opportunity for people that don't to get hold of this brochure and find the best places to fish in the region. The lagoon weed management, it's good to see that we've been getting some traction on that. The Yulamia boardwalk hasn't seen some water for several years, and now you walk on that one, you're going to get to see some water. And as mentioned, Invest Mackay Events and Attraction Program had 3 events in January. AFLW match between the Gold Coast and the GWS Giants, the Australia Day Basketball Carnival, and the 2022 Regional Gridiron Reef Bowl. The Sugar Shed, although had some revenue down in ticket sales as a result of some very hot days, so apparently it got really hot out there on the tour, so they've had to cancel some of that, but it's good to see that revenue's up in the retail area as well. And coming up in March, I think we have, I've lost it, the Suncorp Super Netball pre-season matches and camp, Queensland Firebirds versus Collingwood Magpies on March 10th and 11th this year.
Thanks very much, Councillor Englert. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. I'd like to thank the Acting Director for touching on the recruitment process that's going on in the Development Planning and Engineering program, and that it's now been added to the report as well. The report explains programs carrying 9 vacancies, whom all contribute to meeting those key performance indicators. So anticipated that once these roles are filled and the officers are trained, that we'll start to see those indicators met. So thank you for that addition. Mowing services were significantly up in January, so welcome to the new employees in the Parks Department, and thanks to all the Parks staff who have been working tirelessly to get on top of the backlog of jobs that are around the region. And I'd like to highlight a couple of upcoming events that are part of Council's regional events strategy. The first is the events and conference briefing update. Our economic development team will host the 2022 events and conference briefing for tourism industry operators, and that'll be held here at the MEC on March the 17th. This briefing covers an overview of events coming to Mackay in 2022, regional calendar of events, We'll hear from event planners about opportunities for leveraging events and provide an opportunity to network with other operators and event planners at this briefing. The second is the Mackay Region Event Boot Camp, and this is in partnership with Mackay Isaac Tourism. The boot camp workshop will take place at Harrop Park on the 10th of March, and this workshop will help to take events to the next level, creating an unforgettable customer experience and increase ticket sales and promotion. So businesses can contact Council's Economic Development team or Mackay Isaac Tourism if they'd like more information or registration details on these two worthwhile boot camps. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Other speakers? Councillor Hassan speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to expand a little further on the Acting Director and Councillor Inglett's comments about the fishing, what's available for our fishers. So the competitions that were launched on the 1st of February, and I was very pleased to be able to launch that land-based fishing brochure. They're available from all of our visitor information centres and from Tackle World. So really good resource for people that don't have a boat, and some really great places for people to take their kids and fish on the weekend and get people out of the house. And just a little bit more about the competition that was launched, only one more week available to go, so that closes on the 28th of February. There are two different competitions underway. The first is a photo competition, which is more aimed at teenagers and adults, and the second is a colouring competition targeted more at children aged between 3 and 12. Both of them have some fantastic prizes on offer, and I'd encourage people to get their entries in before next Monday.
Thanks, Councillor Hassan. Are there other speakers? Councillor May, speaking for.
Yes, thank you very much, Worship. Just briefly, I just wanted to reiterate Councillor Inglett's words around the application for the tourism project in Finchatten. That is really great to see, and I know that our economic development team have done a whole lot of work with people from the Valley and across our region in mentoring them and working their way through what establishment of businesses. So to have an application come to council, that's a great outcome, I think. The other thing that I wanted to highlight was just the retail sales for the Serena Sugar Shed was $70,467 for January. And anybody in business would know that January and February are normally quiet months in any sort of retail space. So for the Sugar Shed to be achieving that, that's a 37% increase on January last year. So that's a great outcome. And of course, our three top selling alcohol lines are the Lime Noi, the 10th anniversary rum and liqueur, and the other rum liqueur that we have as well. So we've got some really great products. And of course, the Sugar Shed, we have some great staff down there that do a fantastic job, and they have had, again, dealing with all of the COVID measures that need to come in place. Councillor Inglett mentioned the climate that we suffered in the January period, but there was 158 volunteer hours put into the Sugar Shed as well, and that total for the year is 1,424, which I think is well worth a mention, and a big thanks to our volunteers down there. The other part that I wanted to mention today was around the Gold Coast Suns and the activation through the game that was held here in January. And the economic development team did a fantastic job in taking not the players, but the support team that come with the Gold Coast Suns around our region to highlight some of the great things that are happening in our region. And that just doesn't stay with those dozen people that come to support the Gold Coast Suns. That goes back to the Gold Coast, it goes back to Metricon Stadium, to their other project partners, so that Makai region is being broadcast across the Gold Coast, which I think is a great outcome.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Councillor Townsend, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just thought it was a great opportunity to let our community know about the Activate My Place grant that opened on January 25th. This grant assists communities to enhance and create vibrant spaces to encourage more people to visit and spend time where they live. And I think giving an example of people that have used this grant will help people understand that. An example is a couple of projects that were funded by Activate My Place is the Slade Point water tower, which depicts a super mural displayed on the 18-metre tall tower of Slade Point. If anyone hasn't been there, I encourage you to go and have a look. It's magnificent, and it's become an attraction for visitors and all over the region, and it also features in promotional material for the Mackay region. The neighbourhood, Sleep Point Neighbourhood Watch Community Group were approved $7,500, which enabled them to successfully approach other businesses. The Mackay-based hospital, Makai Hospital Foundation, was awarded $5,000 to establish an Indigenous meeting place and healing garden. This garden helps support and preserve Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander language, arts and culture within our local community, and provides a tranquil, culturally appropriate healing space where staff, patients and their families can enjoy a walk or chat outdoors. This grant, I believe, is the perfect avenue for our not-for-profit organisations, registered businesses, individuals, artists, community and service organisations to apply for funding for similar projects, and I encourage them to visit Council website, which provides all the information that you need to submit your application. Applications close on the 8th of April, so there's no time like the present to investigate this great initiative.
Thanks very much, Councillor Townsend. Other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. So let's move on then. The engineering and commercial infrastructure reports for January. The first is the transport and drainage. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just initially looking at safety, so we did have an LTI where we had an employee hurt their knee, so it was pretty inconsequential what they did. They were basically down and just got up and twisted, so that's being reviewed. Other than that, there's obviously the other major issue was probably hitting an ergon box where we were doing obviously slashing on the roadside, so we're looking to implement a better process around that and lock into ergon's app that where you can actually locate assets before we actually get on site. So it's been a good lesson learnt from that. In relation to other operational matters, civil ops has been a little impacted by COVID, so a number of staff have been off over the period, but hopefully we're over that hump and getting back to normal operation as we can in these times. Just specialised drainage work, trying to do it, obviously not ideal doing it in the wet, and we obviously get impacted, but working on Bridge Road at the moment, so there is some impact around tides. Great results from the customer survey results, 4.25 stars, so that's really pleasing to see. And you will see in asset management that the WIP value has increased in the last month, a number of projects. That was a little bit taking people offline to focus on some backlog we had around some aesthetic work orders, but reprioritising that and putting some more resources into that, so should have that come under control in the next month. Otherwise, happy taking questions, Your Worship.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Wow, oh, okay. We've got Councillor Mann.
Electronic page 66, what types of repairs would make up an internal MIMO repair?
That's a very good question, Councillor. So internal MIMOs are really, if we get complaints or investigations that normally come through our transport and drainage infrastructure planning area, they'll investigate that and then they'll issue, well, basically it's an internal memo, but a works order to basically go back through to civil ops. Normally it's sort of minor sort of type of work, so it might be a line marking or signage changes or small sort of civil projects.
Have another one, Councillor Mann?
That's it.
No further questions? Well done. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Mann moves the report's adoption, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. Look, on safety, the Director's already touched on it, but it was fantastic to see monthly action plans are back on track across Council and with 100% of the monthly action plan activities carried out. So I think that's a really important component to our safety journey. Again, on safety, 8 safety interactions and 6 site inspections undertaken. In terms of work orders completed, there were around 85 pothole repairs and around 55 open drainage requests. Noting too that operational resources were impacted by COVID in this area too. So it's really good to see everybody returning back to work and I guess a lot more movement on maintenance activities as well. And asset management is a really big focus of this council, and the report certainly gives us lots of information on where we're at in terms of detailed activities. It's great to see that the cleansing process has been completed for water and sewer assets, and the valuations will start to commence soon.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next ECI report then is the Waste Services Report, Director.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So no LTIs. We have had a number of incidents recently with JJ Richards, which we sort of aligned to a little bit of some new operators, truck drivers coming in, so just a couple more incidents. So we're working with them just to make sure they're obviously taking due care in relation to getting those new operators on board and understanding what needs to be done. Tonnages at Hogan Pockets have dropped again, so yeah, still seeing that variability there, so hard to get a read on. In relation to green waste, as expected, the tonnages are up as we get lots of rain and more people starting to use that. Vouchers, so currently sitting at 17.9% redemption rate, or 26,000 or 27,000 used to date with a couple more months. So people, it's a prime opportunity now to use those before the 31st of March end date. Bin replacements were up for the period, which we normally see because there's probably an extended period we see where we shut down for Christmas, so it's probably really a 5-week period, but it's good to see that the number of replacements over that period was very high, and the MRF contractor has moved a bit more product out to market, so there was a big dip in December, which is probably corresponds a little bit to the timing, but starting to pick that back up again. Otherwise, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Questions for the Director?
I do.
Oh, you've got a question, Councillor Mann. Thank you.
Electronic page 83, collection truck operator noticed an LPG bottle placed in a bin and removed it. So my question is, do we have the option to fine a householder, or given it seems the operator could identify where the bottle came from?
Yep, Director.
Yeah, through your worship, very good question. So yes, we do have the ability to fine. There is a little bit of a difficulty in identifying. We can identify the product in the bin, but actually who put it in there is an issue for us sometimes to be able to come down. Generally, we've taken an approach that if we see someone, we'll make contact with that person, issue a notice to them, and then we basically see that behaviour improve. But if there is ongoing issues with a resident, we can reach to that point. Generally, what we'll try and do is obviously work with them and then work with the community a bit more in the social media to make sure that people are aware of the issues.
Further questions? Councillor May.
Just one in regards to the closed landfill and site review, and what's the time frame on that?
Yep, very good question again, Councillor. So we're just reviewing that at the moment. So we have a contractor on board going through that, and it's basically just doing that risk assessment of all those sites, looking at doing sampling and then some sort of prioritisation process so we can start to build a remediation program that ties into our LTFF. So I expect we'll get a sort of a final report in the next couple of months, so happy to come back and sort of give an overview. There is obviously a significant liability sitting with all those landfills, so yeah, it's something that we obviously need to have a look at from a financial point of view going forward.
Thank you.
Further questions? No further questions, and we'd like to move the report's adoption. Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Worship. Well, just further from what the Director and Councillor Mann have touched on, while there weren't any lost time injuries for January, it was concerning to see that incident involving members of the public. And while the Director has alluded to the contractor being contacted, I kind of feel a bit like a broken record continually highlighting these issues where people are putting flammable items into their bin. It was just lucky on this occasion that the driver saw that before another fire incident was instigated. But if people aren't sure what can and can't go in the bin, it's as simple as picking up the phone and contacting council and asking. It's just not worth more fires in our bins, and the risk is the safety of our drivers and the general public. The other incident that was highlighted was related to a member of the public being struck by a bin that was being lowered by a waste services truck. And again, while that may be something we need to raise with the contractor, it's also something that, the general members of the public need to be aware of. Just be aware of your own safety and your surroundings. It's a bit hard to miss a rubbish truck, so just keep an eye on what's going on around you. So I think it's just highlighting that safety issue. Due to both school holidays and COVID restrictions, there weren't any tours of the materials recovery facility and no training sessions during January. However, with school going back now and the COVID restrictions about to ease even further, I just want to remind schools, educational centres and the general public that those education sessions are recommencing. They're a really great way for education of our younger generation about that process of waste management and resource recovery. And finally, I've been harping on also about Lawmac over the last couple of months, and I just wanted to advise that we've received our certificate of incorporation this week in the mail, which has taken quite some time. So we're now a fully fledged independent organisation, and very shortly we're moving ahead with our strategic planning and look forward to representing and advocating for our member councils.
That's great. Thanks very much, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Well, sorry. ECI report for water, Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. So talking about water, so 4 incidents for the month. Pleasing to see still no LTIs in the water and sewage business for the last sort of 20 odd months. So strong focus on safety. Water consumption is a little bit up and down. So obviously this time of year when we have lots of rain, we see a drop. But as soon as warmer weather starts to come in, we have some dry spells. We obviously get a significant uptake. So just a reminder for people to be conscious of that when they're using their water. Total of 462 work requests, again, a very high number, but normally what we see again with the shutdown, I think in the period sort of post-Christmas, so a little bit of a longer period there. And there's a bit of a priority to try and get those all sorted. The year-to-date actuals are tracking very well in relation to budget, so there are a couple of areas that are slightly over. We're continuing to monitor that from an operational point of view. Plumbing applications low for the last couple of months, but again, that's sort of the period where you probably tend to see those, so it'll be interesting to see if they pick up in the next couple of months. Customer survey results, again, an excellent result from water and 4.5 stars, which is equal to their highest ever recorded result there, so well done. And lastly, but certainly not least, just recognition again of the Marion Water Treatment Plant, obviously winning the Queensland title of Best Tasting Water. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the national award, but yeah, I think Orange and New South Wales pipped us, but I'm guessing we came second anyway.
So I watched that, Director, but they didn't say who came second.
No, they don't actually.
I'm sure we did stacked, actually. But anyway.
Let's claim it anyway.
Happy to take any questions you work.
Questions for the Director? Councillor Mann.
Bit of a pattern here, isn't
questions
it?
tonight. Thank you.
So electronic page 102, what part of the region was affected by dirty water?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. There's probably across the area, there wasn't a major incident, so it sort of can depend. So we record anything from in our network or an individual property. So sometimes we can have individual properties that have an issue, and a lot of the times that's an internal issue for them. But you know, otherwise, if we have dead-end mains or we have people taking water from our network, they can cause some dirty water. So it's a bit of a mixture across the region. I think there was a couple in Mountain Pleasant, Bakers Creek, but yeah, no particular area that was sort of came up as a significant issue.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Just on page 108, I note the MyH2O rego numbers have dropped by 5 for the month. Now, I assume we do get the odd new one every month, but it's dropped by 5 in total. So with our current registrations at 16,400, I see that as approximately 1/3 of our rateable properties. I'd like to see that sort of start to move up there, but does the Director have any thoughts on the possible ways to sort of maybe kickstart that program again or to improve those numbers?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think the drop, the advice I got there is I think a real estate agent that maybe finished up and we actually record the number of properties. So if that one person is registered for 100 properties or 5 properties, if they drop off, those 5 properties drop off. So I think that's probably why we've had a decrease. In relation to registrations, obviously it's been a struggle. We got a reasonable number up early and they seem to be the socially responsible people that were very passionate about that. We have had a look at a couple of options about whether we do a sign up for everyone and an opt-out type option. So we're exploring that. So that might be something we can come back in. And obviously previously we ran competitions to try and get people to sign up. But yeah, it's very slow and hard work at the moment to sort of get those numbers up higher than what we've sort of seeing at present.
Thank you.
It's a very good question. I mean, you might remember when we started this term of council, it's about 14,800, I think, and it's taken a long time to get just to 15,000. So the signing up everybody and an opting out option might be a very good way to go.
Yeah, we're having a look at it. I mean, I will say though, in relation to other local governments and comparable water authorities, our numbers are high. So we do sit in the top echelon compared to that. So everyone has the same sort of struggle. So it might be that opt-in option we have a look at and explore the impacts around that, and then come back to council and have some further discussion.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor May.
Just in regards to the water leaks and the volume of water through residential and non-residential, do we ever have a look and compare ourselves to similar sized councils in regards to our volume of water leaks?
Yeah, good question, councillor. No, probably in the fact that it's probably harder unless people are also tied up with smart metering to be able to access that data. They probably have the ability, if someone finds a leak and there's a request for relief under that, but that probably doesn't pick up the total number of leaks. So I think as the industry moves towards more smart metering and is able to collect that data, we'll have a better representation of the number of leaks. But overall, that sort of, somewhere between 4 to 10% potentially is the numbers that we're seeing from some other trials in other water authorities. But obviously that might be different depending on where you are in relation to the location.
Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to follow on from what the Director said and congratulate our Moroney Water Services team on their finalist position in the Australia's Best Tasting Water competition, which was held in Tasmania on the 20th of January. As the Director stated, this was the third time in 4 years that our team has represented Queensland in this competition, and I know you just said you watched it, and I'm not sure if anybody else did, but this is a serious competition. I thought I was watching a wine tasting competition. These judges they're very full on. They're looking for colour, clarity, odour and taste, and they take their roles very seriously during that competition. So I'd encourage anyone who didn't watch it to jump online on Council's website and have a look at the video. It's very entertaining. And personally, like you, Mayor, I believe that we still produce the best tasting water in Australia, but they had to let somebody else win it for a change. Going on with the water leaks, we continue to see a high number of potential leak notifications issued, with 2,454 residential properties leaks and 428 non-residential leaks commencing just during this reporting period. So between both residential and non-residential, a total of almost 60,000 kilolitres of water was lost. So alluding to what Councillor Major said, that's a massive amount of water which people are paying for. So just on the My H2O thing, I'd really encourage people to join up for that. It just makes it much easier and quicker for council to contact people about those water leaks. As always, our water services team are extremely busy and carry out an impressive amount of testing every month. Constant testing is undertaken to ensure that we continue to have the best tasting water in the world. Our trade waste is assessed and monitored, wastewater testing is performed, plumbing applications are processed, and water leaks detected and reported back to our customers. And all of this is done with the absolute best focus on our customer service, and there's always really high levels of positive feedback from the community. So I just asked the Director to pass on our thanks to all members of the Water Services team.
Thanks, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried. Org Services monthly review for the month of January. Director.
Good morning, Your Worship. Safety continues to be a focus of the Org Services Department, with no lost time injuries reported during January. Some highlights for the month include customer service team exceeded grade of service targets this month, achieving 86%. Grade of service records the percentage of customer calls that are answered within 60 seconds across shared services. This coupled with a customer satisfaction rating of 96% is a credit to the team. Makai Regional Council continues to support local businesses, with 72% of our procurement spend being reflected into the local economy. This equates to about $10 million. The second year of the MRC Toastmasters Club commenced, with the first hybrid session held due to COVID restrictions. The Executive Committee is looking to add 5 new members in 2020. Financial services teams have prepared and submitted a long-term financial forecast to support the upcoming QTC credit review, and the information services team continue their focus on cybersecurity, which includes sustainable culture and behavioural changes, as well as industry alignment to up-to-date technology. It is pleasing to note that the increase in attendance at the Memorial Pioneer, Morani and Serena pools this month compared to the same period last year. Meanwhile, the Mark hosted a number of events during January, including a junior triathlon and a Go Swim intensive swim week. I just need to point out as well, there's an error on electronic page 124. It says there were 7,255 calls received the same period last year. That's actually the 3-year average for 2021. The same period last year, there was 6,644 calls received. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Mann.
So in terms of KPIs for shared services and IT support, so it was really good to see that they even met or exceeded both areas' KPIs. Does that mean all positions are filled now in both areas?
That's correct. I've got some temporary vacancies that they're actually trying to recruit following a bit of movement, but that will probably more show up in the February numbers.
Further questions? No further questions. So we'd like to move the report's adoption. Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. I will start with safety, and it was good to see there was no LTIs and minimal incidents, and I do believe, in my opinion anyway, that's a reflection of the safety culture in the department. The graph in regard to call arrival patterns shows a maximum of 38 calls received in a single 15-minute interval. And when you consider we've got a small team answering phones, I think that they're under a lot of pressure at different times during the day, particularly because a call might mean other things that need to be done as well. So they certainly have their work cut out for them. 865 more emails were received for January from the same period in 2021. And interesting to see, for the first time in a long time, mowing and weeds maintenance made it into the top 5 pathway requests with 164 requests logged. And I guess that's partly the humid conditions we experienced in January, and it certainly was ideal growing conditions, but there was also a lot of vacancies in the area too. So now that we're getting more people on board, I'm sure people will notice a difference around the region. As the Director already highlighted, fantastic to see 72% local spend. I think that's the highest it's been for quite a while too, which is good. And as she also already said too, fantastic to see the increased numbers attending Memorial, Pioneer and Morani and Serena. And again, that could be reflective of the very hot conditions in January.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Green, speaking for.
Thank you. Like all organisations and businesses, obtaining and retaining skilled resources within the Mackay region is a continuing challenge, and we're no different. Therefore, it's pleasing to read that discussions are now underway to finalise an agreement with the Microsoft traineeship program that will position this council as a leader in this partnership program with Microsoft within regional Queensland councils. The partnership is part of the IS apprentice intake and is a significant achievement, improving upon our previous Cert 3 trainee intake. So skills delivery with this partnership will achieve a Cert 4 and Microsoft Cloud certification, which will extend the local skills pool. And the Makai Mentoring Network program, for the 4th year running, has secured a partnership between the Resource Industry Network and the Makai Regional Council. This program links up-and-coming leaders within our region with mentors who will assist them to build their leadership capabilities and create networking opportunities. It typically runs for 8 months, and January saw the formal closeout of the 2021 program, and preparations are underway for the 2022 Mentor Network cohort. And applications for mentors and mentees are now open during February. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Green. Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on. There's no petitions to receive today, no tenders for consideration, no notified motions. Public participation, we have one. Mr Begg. I think you know the drill, Mr Begg. It's 3 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for that. I just want to refer to an article published in the Daily Mercury on January the 31st in regards to the new fishing competition to reel in tourists into the region. I think I can recall over at the a late meeting over in the other building there late last year about there being a little bit of a ruckus about boat ramps. Now, even though this is a land-based activity, I find it a little bit ironic that the state government are providing funding through Tourism Makai to promote such an event in the region to draw on to draw on tourism within the region. I think I remember at that time, the secondary meeting that I attended, I also said it was very important that council maintain consistency when it came to communications. So I do refer, I was interested to go through and read that particular article within the Daily Mercury not too long ago. There've been a lot of people who have certainly petitioned both council and state government to get that infrastructure in place. So I don't think those people should be forgotten. The other thing too, just quickly, I met with Di Farmer this time last week, obviously Di, Minister for Small Business and Skilling in the region, and she understands fully the challenges that are afoot in regards to skilling in the area. I think sometimes we forget that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Di was a previous Minister for Women and Child Safety, and on Monday evening I attended an event placed on by Shane Hamilton in regards to women leading the way. It was a very insightful panel. All proceeds went to the Makai Women's Centre. It was very pleasing to see Councillor Hassan and Councillor Jones in attendance. And I just want to extend a real thanks to Councillor Hassan with the work her and her team do at the Makai Women's Centre. I've got to say, I walked away from that particular event quite shocked. But I just want to say thank you very much, Belinda, for the work that you do in the community.
Thanks, Mr. Beck. Okay, late business. Are there any items of late business? Councillor Mann.
So today is Ovarian Cancer Giving Day. Every 8 hours in Australia, a woman dies from ovarian cancer. That's sobering. Every 8 hours. It is Australia's deadliest female cancer. Here in our region, we are incredibly blessed to have the Trudy Crowley Foundation, who ensure that no woman will walk alone in her ovarian cancer journey. Donations locally help the first ever face-to-face cancer nurse in Australia and a counsellor to help women in our region that are affected. And donations to Ovarian Cancer Australia will help support continued research and advocacy for better treatment. So I think it's a very, very good cause to support if people feel they're able to.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. Other items of late business? No other items of late business? Thanks very much, councillors. We've got some confidential reports, the Legal Services Monthly Report, the approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Attraction Program, and concessions under the Facilitating Development. They're fairly well perfunctory. Does anybody want to consider those in closed session? None? Okay, so let's move through then the adoption of those reports, the Legal Services Monthly Report for January 22. Somebody like to move its adoption? Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Englert seconds. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried, thank you. The approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program for January. Somebody like to move? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Englert. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried, thank you. And the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development of the Mackay Region Policy for January 22. Councillor Green moves, Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried, thank you. Did you vote, Councillor? Did you vote for? Okay, thank you. Thank you, so that was carried unanimously, that one. Thank you. All right, well that's it, councillors. Thanks very much. Thank you, CEO and directors. Declare the meeting closed.